News arrived with the morning mist on November 1st, 2025. Lord Harrington Blackwood was dead. He had been found in his stately study at Blackwood Manor, murdered. The word itself sent a shiver through the small village of Oakhaven. Lord Blackwood was a man of considerable wealth. He was also a man who collected enemies as others collected stamps. His sudden violent demise was a shock, yet perhaps not entirely a surprise to those who knew his dealings. The local constabulary were baffled. They called for outside assistance. A mind was needed, a mind that could see through the fog of deceit. Mr. Alistair Finch arrived 2 days later. The November air was crisp and carried the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Blackwood Manor loomed before him. It was an imposing structure of gray stone, softened somewhat by ivy. Its many windows stared out like dark, vacant eyes. A plume of smoke curled from one of its many chimneys. It suggested life within, but the atmosphere was undeniably somber. Mr. Finch, a man of quiet observation, took it all in. Chief Inspector Davies met him in the drawing room. A fire crackled in the hearth, offering little warmth against the room's chill. Davies was a portly man, his face etched with worry. He quickly recounted the known facts. Lord Blackwood, aged 67, found dead on the morning of November 1st, around 1:05 a.m. The murder weapon was a silver letter opener from his own desk. The only witness to anything unusual was Thomas, the footman. He had heard the clock that struck twice. Davies confessed his own perplexity. "It's a strange one, Mr. Finch," he admitted, "very strange indeed." Mr. Finch listened patiently. The household was a collection of strained faces and hushed tones. Lady Annalise Blackwood, the young widow, was perhaps the most obvious suspect. She was Lord Blackwood's third wife, barely 30 years old. She stood to inherit a considerable fortune. Mr. Finch found her in the morning room. She was dressed in elegant black. Her grief seemed genuine, yet there was a flicker of something else in her eyes. Was it fear, or perhaps relief? She spoke of her late husband with a carefully measured sorrow. She claimed to have been asleep in her chambers. She heard nothing. Then there was Mr. Julian Blackwood, the nephew. He was Lord Blackwood's only living relative from his first marriage. Julian was a man in his late 30s. He had a reputation for fast living and even faster spending. He had argued with his uncle frequently about money. He too stood to gain from the will. Julian appeared distraught, but his eyes darted about nervously. He claimed he was in his own rooms, reading. He also claimed to have heard nothing. The storm, he said, was too loud. He offered a weak smile that did not quite reach his eyes. Mr. Finch began his delicate dance of interviews. He spoke to each member of the household. He spoke to the staff, from Mrs. Gable down to the trembling Thomas. He listened more than he talked. He watched their expressions. He noted their hesitations. He was searching for the inconsistencies, the tiny cracks in their carefully constructed stories. Thomas, the footman, recounted his experience again. He was certain about the clock. "It struck one, sir," he insisted, and then a little while after it struck one again, just like it sometimes does. This peculiarity of the clock was confirmed by other staff members. It was an old clock prone to whims. A few small clues began to surface, like pebbles on a vast beach. A small mother-of-pearl button was found near the French doors in the study. None of the household admitted to owning such a button. The French doors were locked from the inside. However, one pane of glass had a fresh scratch near the latch. Could someone have picked the lock? Outside on the terrace, a faint, muddy footprint was discovered. It was partially washed away by the rain. It was impossible to tell its size or make. It merely suggested someone might have been outside, looking in, or perhaps attempting entry. Lady Annalise mentioned her husband had been reviewing his will recently. Mr. Finch requested a clockmaker to examine the grandfather clock. Mr. Silas Croft, a wizened old man from the village, arrived the next morning. He had tended to the Blackwood Manor clocks for decades. He knew this particular clock intimately. "She's a grand old lady," he said, patting its wooden case. "But temperamental. Always has been." He confirmed that the clock did indeed sometimes strike an extra chime. Usually a minute or so after the correct hour. A worn escapement, most likely, he explained. Or perhaps a sticky lever in the striking mechanism. He found no evidence of recent, deliberate tampering. Mr. Finch then focused on the timing of events. Thomas found the body shortly after 1:05 a.m. He heard the first chime at 1 o'clock and the second a minute or two later. Lord Blackwood had been seen alive by Miss Vance around 9:30 p.m. He had dismissed her for the night. He said he had some important correspondence to attend to. This left a window of approximately 3.5 hours during which the murder could have occurred. Most of the household claimed to have retired to their rooms by 10:30 p.m. The storm provided convenient cover. It muffled sounds. It discouraged movement outside. A new thought began to form in Mr. Finch's mind. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in perspective. He re-interviewed Thomas, the footman. He asked him to describe the chimes again. The first chime, sir, was normal. Just one bong for 1 o'clock, clear as a bell. Then maybe a minute later, another bong. Just the one. It often does that, sir. We're all used to it. Mr. Finch nodded slowly. And you are quite sure, Thomas, he pressed gently, that both chimes sounded exactly the same tone, the same resonance? Thomas paused, thinking. Well, sir, he said hesitantly, now that you mention it, the second one, it might have sounded a little duller, less clear perhaps. This small hesitation was the key. Mr. Finch returned to the clockmaker, Mr. Croft. He asked him a specific question. Mr. Croft, he inquired, if one were to manually operate the striking mechanism of this clock to make it chime just once, would it sound identical to its automatic chime? The old clockmaker pondered. Not quite, sir, he replied. The automatic strike has a certain fullness. It's driven by the weights with precision. A manual push on the lever might make it chime, yes, but it would likely sound a bit off, a bit forced. Mr. Finch gathered everyone in the drawing room. The atmosphere was electric. He began to lay out his findings. He spoke of the time of death. He explained his theory about the clock. The first chime at 1 o'clock a.m. was genuine. The second, slightly duller chime, heard by Thomas, was faked. It was manually produced by the killer. This meant Lord Blackwood was likely killed much earlier, between 9:30 p.m. and 10 o'clock p.m. This changed everything. Alibis for 1 o'clock a.m. were now irrelevant. What mattered was where everyone was earlier in the evening. He turned to Miss Eleanor Vance, the quiet secretary. Miss Vance, he said, his voice gentle but firm. You stated you left Lord Blackwood at 9:30 p.m. You then went to your office and then to your room. But the button found near the French doors, the mother-of-pearl button, it matches those on the cuff of the blouse you wore that evening, does it not? Miss Vance paled. She stammered a denial. But Mr. Finch continued. Lord Blackwood was planning to change his will. He was also aware of certain financial irregularities. Small sums, siphoned off over years. He had discovered your embezzlement, Miss Vance. The letter he burned? It was likely evidence he had gathered against you. Miss Vance had indeed killed Lord Blackwood around 9:45 p.m. He had confronted her. She had panicked. The letter opener was an impulsive weapon. She then coolly planned her next steps.
Unsolved mysteries. Missing. Disclaimer: the crime stories shared on this channel are fictional and created purely for entertainment purposes. Viewer discretion is advised, as the themes may still include sensitive or suspenseful content. Watch as I bring you thrilling tales well. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an upload.